Well, greetings, people of the internet. Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today, I'm going to tell you why I think Windows is better. Now, I can see the multitudes out there clicking the dislike button. What does he mean Windows is better? Well, in my circumstance, and probably yours as well, you're going to find that Windows just fills the needs you have. At least it does for me. I have spent the better part of a couple of months evaluating other operating systems, Linux-based. I've played with Proxmox. I've played with XCP, NG. I've played with VMware, Hyper-V, etc. And for my situation, Windows just seems to tick all the boxes. And it isn't like I haven't tried to embrace these other hypervisors and operating systems and whatnot. I just keep running back to Windows for its simplicity and its ease of use. Now, that doesn't mean that Windows doesn't have its problems, just like any other operating system does, or any other platform does. But I find the benefits outweigh the problems that I experience. So when it comes to virtualization, I'm just really kind of stuck on Hyper-V and, Windows Server 2019. That being said, one of the shortfalls of Hyper-V is pass-through, whether it be pass-through of a video card or a pass-through of a controller. It's just not as easily done as it is on something like Proxmox or QEMU or even VMware for that matter. It can be done, and I have attempted to do it, but you will find that if you don't have very modern video cards, etc., the pass-through is not going to probably work for you. Like I said, I've tried it, but I've got mainly older video cards and that kind of thing, so your mileage might vary on that. So this video today is to tell you and explain to you and to show you why I think Windows is going to works better for me in both my home networking, my lab networking, and my business networking. And today we'll start off with my home server, which, if you don't know already, is Prometheus. Now, about a year ago, I decided I didn't want to use AMD for one specific reason, because AMD does not have a integrated video on their chip that is as compatible with Plex and MB as Intel is. So I decided to go with the 10th gen 10400 i5 processor on Prometheus, and I paired that with a gigabyte motherboard and 32 gig of G.Skill RAM. Now, that 10400 processor comes with a built-in UHD, Intel UHD 630 video processor on the chip. And if you know anything about Plex and if you know anything about MB, they both love QuickSync. In fact, they were pretty much made to use QuickSync. Now, that doesn't mean you can't use NVIDIA video cards in your Plex or MB server, but I just find the problem I have is I don't need to transcode all my video, but when you turn subtitles on, you introduce a situation where you need transcoding in order to stream it to my Roku devices and even my Amazon Fire Stick, which is back here on this TV. So that's why I went with the Intel chip and the Intel QuickSync video. Now, the other thing that Prometheus does, so Prometheus, one, it houses MB and Plex. I also use it as my storage server for all my videos, home videos, TV shows, movies, family photos, and music are all stored on Prometheus in a dry bender drive array. So I have four 4 terabyte drives in that unit, and then they're in a dry bender drive array. The other thing I want this server to do is to be my surveillance system server. So I host Blue Iris on Prometheus as well. Now, a lot of you are out there going, boy, that's a lot to put on one server. Yeah, it is, but you're going to see how well it works here shortly as I show you. Now, not only do I use it as my home surveillance, but I've got a couple of cameras placed on my bench. There's one right there on an arm, and then there's one over here, if I can figure out how my fingers work, right where that speaker is that points down to the side of the bench. And what I often do is capture footage on Blue Iris and then use it in my YouTube videos. So it has kind of a dual purpose. So Blue Iris can eat up a lot of CPU cycles. In fact, in some testing I did with, let's see, what do I have, 9 cameras, I was getting about 30 to 40% CPU usage on Blue Iris. And then I had an epiphany. You know, one of the things I've always bandied on about is video pass-through from virtual machines. And the lack of Windows to be able to do it. But the one thing I forgot is, being Windows, you can run native applications right at the root of the operating system without having to put them in a virtual machine and have direct access to the video cards. So there's really no need to virtualize something like Blue Iris if I want to give it a video card, or MB if I want to give it a video card, or Plex for that matter. I just need to simply load those applications onto the operating system, and they have access to the video cards. But what I wanted to do was something a little bit different, and that is I wanted to give a specific video card to Blue Iris while having Plex and MB use a different video card. And today I've achieved that. So let's step over to the bench, and I'm going to show you the build, what components I put in here. And then once we're done with that, we'll come back and we'll discuss it a little bit more. So once again, Prometheus is back on the bench, and I just wanted to share with you some of the changes I've made to Prometheus. Many, many months ago, probably over a year ago, I bought a gigabyte motherboard for this thing, the H47, H470MDS3H is the model of motherboard that's in here by Gigabyte. And this is a 10th gen Intel i5 processor right here, the 10400. I got it with in integrated video because I wanted to use the Intel QuickSync for Plex and MB. It works really, really well if you need to transcode. And then I got 2 16 gig sticks of G-Skill RAM in here for a total of 32 gig of RAM. And the beauty of this motherboard is I can bump it. I can take it all the way up to 64 gig, I believe, if I need to. So it's got the onboard video, but you notice one of the changes I made is I have installed another video card in here. And we'll zoom in on her right there. That's the NVIDIA Quadro K620 that I picked up off of a client. Actually, they gave them to me. And this is just a 2 gig Quadro card, but the Quadro card is a really good card. It's low profile, it's skinny, it doesn't require any secondary power. And then the other thing I did was I replaced the NIC that was in this. I had a Mellanox Connect X2 card in here, and I've changed that out for a Mellanox Connect X3 card, which is right here flashing. It's a little hard out. And I did that because there's better driver support for this card than there is for the Mellanox 2, and this card's just getting a little old. So I chose to go with the Mellanox 3. So this unit also has 4 hard drives in it, 4 4 terabyte hard drives, and they are set up in a drive bender drive array. Why did I do all that? Well, because I decided I was running Windows 10 on here and it was running fine, but I decided I wanted to run Windows Server 2019 on here, and I wanted to try something. I wanted to put a secondary video card in here and devote that specifically to Blue Iris to use to compress video when it writes it to the hard drive. Because I also use the video from Blue Iris, as you will see in this video, I use that video in making my YouTube videos. I have a camera over here to the right of me, and I have a camera up here on the bench that is kind of my overhead camera shot. So I wanted something to take kind of the stress off of the CPU from using the CPU to encode the video all the time. And I tend to overthink things. So one of the things I was going to do was load Proxmox on here and then pass through these things to a virtual machine, etc., etc. But I got thinking, if I could just run both video cards simultaneously, I could just run Windows natively, have both video cards available, and assign them to the various applications right in Windows and not have to mess with a virtual machine at all. And that's what I've done. So, and I thought it was better suited to run under Server 2019. One little problem with running Windows Server 2019 on this motherboard is I lose the functionality of the inbuilt Intel 219 network card, which is a gigabit network card, which is fine. So I just turn it off in the BIOS. They don't have a driver for it. You know, Intel doesn't support running workstation network cards under server operating system, and I didn't want to have to kludge something together to make it work. So great place to put the Mellanox ConnectX 3 card. So now I've got that in there. I've got the K620. I've got the onboard UHD 630. So I can assign the video on this chip to Plex and MV for transcoding. And then the Quadro, I can give that over to Blue Iris strictly for recording and encoding video from the surveillance system. So for me, it's a win-win. So I've got all this done now. I've got all the changes made. So I'm going to button everything back up. I'm going to put it back into the rack where it belongs. Now, the other thing I did in this, I almost forgot to mention, is I had a Samsung SSD drive in there, and I went ahead and took that out, and instead I installed an NVMe drive in there, and you can see that right down there. So that's just an inland 256 gig NVMe, and then I have another spot there for another NVMe drive if I were to need one. So yeah, this motherboard just really gives me a lot of flexibility, and it makes for a great home server. So I honestly don't know why I thought previously that something like this couldn't be done, but you know, there's no reason you can't run multiple video cards under Windows, and this is living proof. I have put in the Mellanox ConnectX 3 card in here, and I'm using 10 gigabit with a DAC cable. So what you're seeing now is I have Plex and I have MB, I have Blue Iris on here, all running at the same time. And you can see my CPU usage is a lot better than it used to be. It used to be running around 30% when I was running Windows 10 and had a single onboard video card. And you can also see that I have two GPUs now, the onboard UHD 630, which is reserved for Plex and MB, and then the NVIDIA Quadro K620, which is relegated to Blue Iris. So, and it is working well, and you can see it's got about 50% usage of the NVIDIA card for Blue Iris. So, and here's my task manager. So it's worked out well for me. And I have plenty of capacity on this server as well. So I went ahead and loaded Hyper-V on here as well so that I could run some virtual machines. So this server, in essence, houses all of my home-related audio video stuff, and my some of my YouTube production videos, my B-roll footage videos. It's all stored on here. It's all using Drive Bender and a drive array. So there's Drive Bender doing its thing. Let's see, it's going to file and folder, and you can see it's I've got my surveillance video set to write to the Drive Bender drive array as well. I've got all my videos and movies and family photos and everything set up on the drive pool under media. So here you go. There's my music. There's my videos. Everything's all organized into folders, and it's working well. And that one caveat is I have not figured out how to tell Plex to specifically use one video card over the other. In MB, I can do that. In fact, let me show you. And as you can see, if you change your transcoding and your hardware acceleration to advanced, you can actually tell it, if you're using MPEG-2 to use this video card over this one. So you see how I've told it only use the UHD graphics for things like VC1 and MPEG-2 and H.265, VP8, VP9. So that's one of the nice things about MB is that you can selectively tell it what hardware to use as far as the video card goes. Now, if we look under Plex here, you'll see, and keep in mind, I'm not as widely familiar with Plex as I am with MB. MB is my preferred platform for home video and audio and so forth. But I keep Plex because I share libraries with other people and they share them with me. Be that as it may, the only option I have is use hardware acceleration when available. And it says Plex Media Server will attempt to use hardware accelerated video codecs when encoding and decoding. Hardware acceleration can make transcoding faster. However, there's nothing under here that I can see to select one video card over another. And that's just one of my many complaints about Plex. So if one of you out there know a way to specifically tell Plex to use this video card for transcoding as opposed to this one, please let me know. In the comments section, I would love to know how to fix that. So for me anyway, Windows is a winner. Now, Windows isn't perfect. I'm not claiming it is. I've used Linux and Windows for over 30 years, and Linux has its place. I run some Linux servers here. This is not intended to be a war between Proxmox and Hyper-V and XCP-ng. My way of thinking is use whatever product works for you and gets your job done. My most favorite hypervisor, truth be told, is Proxmox. It really is a well thought out program. There are a couple of things I would change on it, mainly doing pass-through. They could make it a lot simpler, but that's all right. If you've got good friends like I do, like Sakura is my, Kinomoto is my go-to guy for Proxmox, and he's helped me learn more about Proxmox and Linux in the last few months than I've learned in probably the last 20 odd years. So kudos to Sakura, and you can hang out with us too if you come over to our Discord server. We often do daily hangouts over there in the general chat. So click on our social media links and you can, and I'm sorry I'm having a little trouble with forming thoughts today. And it's after 3 cups of coffee too. But join us over there on our Discord. We have a lot of fun over there, a group of guys, and we just chat about stuff and learn off of one another and teach one another new things. So, but back to what I was talking about. Yeah, Windows just really, it works for me. It has its problems just like anything else does. But don't be a hater. Don't be a hater on Windows, or don't be a hater on Linux just because you don't understand how something works. Figure out how to get it to work, and I think you'll be much happier. So there you go. Prometheus is now back in the rack. It's hard at work. And let me tell you, when I transferred all of that data, I temporarily stored all of my movies and everything. And I can't tell you, let me see how many terabytes of video. I don't have as much as Sakura does, But let me just give you an idea of the size of my media library. And then you can go from there. It'll have to count it up here in a second. But I was able to transfer all of that data over the 10 gig connection from my Synology NAS, my DS1621, to my to Prometheus. And mind you, it's spinning Rust on both the DS1621 and on Prometheus here. And I was able to, let's see, I've got about 7.19 terabytes of data. Normally that would take a day to transfer all that information, anywhere from 20 to 24 hours to do it. And with a 10 gig connection, I was able to do it in 2.5 hours. So I'm thrilled. So there you go. We hope you found the video entertaining and informative. As always, please give us a thumbs up down below if you enjoyed the video. Leave your comments in the comments section. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and click that notification bell to be notified of new videos when they come out. If you'd like to help support the channel, PayPal, Patreon, the YouTube join function, or you can just send us a check in the mail, whichever way you want to do it. Thanks again for coming to see us, and please don't forget, we'll see all of you on the other side.